when March Madness comes around. And I guess if I don't know the whole bracket setup here, but if you're a Badger fan, I think you want Indiana to win this. You don't want to see Oregon at any point again.
Yeah, early in the season, I'm trying to look this up on the AP rankings right now. I do remember seeing Oregon was ranked. I think they were a top 10. This is when Illinois took them down on the road, and I believe Oregon was a top 10 team at the time. If not, they were still ranked, at least in the AP rankings. So, no, I wholeheartedly agree. It's going back to the conversation of when Wisconsin lost to Oregon. It was a deflating type of way to lose, but it's not like that Oregon was this team that came out of nowhere either. It's everybody, it feels like, in the Big Ten has just had this weird influx of bad and good luck. Same thing with Illinois, too, when they were struck with some illnesses, and that's when they came into Wisconsin, and now all of a sudden it looks like Illinois is streaking. Illinois is streaking in or playing really good
right time,
basketball
3 in a row
at the right time. So, yeah, it's weird to see that a team like this Oregon team,
7 in a row for Oregon.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it's, well, this is close.
It got
closer
right again, but against Indiana. So it's Big Ten tournament time. It's not quite March Madness, but it's close. And the Badgers play at 1:30 today. They play Northwestern. Not the matchup I wanted. I wanted Minnesota. I know that Minnesota game, both those games were somewhat tight at certain points, but Northwestern, I always just feel is they're such a well-coached team, and I feel like they're a little bit healthier than the last time they played, and I just don't want – I could just see a bad game there. I mean, Minnesota did give the Badgers a lot of trouble, but I think that had a lot to do with the Badgers coming off Michigan State and being on the road. Northwestern, I think, is just always a problem.
Well, here is a unique thing. I don't know if you saw this. This just came out through the push alerts, was that apparently Northwestern, the hotel that they're staying at in Indianapolis, their air condition is not working. So according to Chris Collins, he said that the rooms felt like 1,000 degrees. I don't think it actually was 1,000 degrees, but I think somewhere around like 85 was where they were sleeping in.
What the hell's the temperature? This is Indiana, right? What's going on?
Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, reading this ESPN article right here, Northwestern is staying at the Sheraton Hotel during the Big Ten tournament. The conference normally assigns hotels to teams by seeding. According to the Chicago Sun-Times, Northwestern is the 13th seed. So I'm not sure how this works exactly.
You get a nicer hotel,
right? Exactly. You get like the top suite penthouse.
So if they beat the Badgers, do they get to take the Badgers hotel?
See, that's you got to think about that too. Like if the Badgers beat Penn State, what hotel would they have been staying at? Would they have been off like a river or something like that? Get a nice view?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. You get bumped up each way. That is funny. I didn't know they did it. I mean, I guess you can't with this many teams. You no longer can do it as far as just putting them all in one hotel. It's a lot of teams, a lot of people, but I never thought about that. That is pretty funny. The Badgers. Speaking of streaking, Badgers not streaking in the right direction. They haven't covered themselves some glory over the last few games here. They obviously just coming off a loss to Penn State here. But the Badgers, really since the Oregon game, obviously they lost to Oregon February 22nd, 77-73. Then they lost. Then they beat Washington handedly. But then you got Michigan State that kind of throttled the Badgers in the second half once they got their players out of foul trouble. And the Minnesota game was ugly, 74-67, and then they lose to Penn State. So Wisconsin's not going the right way. And I know we're going to talk to Nolan Winter about this, and no, he's not doing an interview with us right before his game.
Special pregame interview with Nolan Winter moments before the game.
If you follow us on social, he did an interview with us on Tuesday, and we did post it yesterday, but we are going to play the entire interview again during this show a little bit later, so we will have a pre-taped interview with Nolan Winter coming up. But the positive here, Pablo, is that some players are coming back from injury. But before we get to that, what is your sense on this team? Because to my point, March is not kind to the Badgers. They are 1-2 in March, and their one win was not an impressive victory over Minnesota. They won 74-67, and Minnesota fired their coach yesterday, Ben Johnson. Not that Ben Johnson, but a different Ben Johnson.
Did you see that Ben Johnson, too? There was a picture of what he looked like when he took the Bears job to what he is today.
Yeah. I wonder
heavy bags under the eyes.
Hopefully it's not as bad as the Ben Johnson from when he was hired at Minnesota to when he was fired and announced weirdly late last night, too. But, the Badgers have beaten no teams in March that still currently have their head coach.
See, I didn't know that. I didn't know that stat, but they just played. They lost their 2 games. And they played Minnesota, who got their head coach fired. Yeah. So, how I'm feeling going into this is you're not trending in the right direction, but I do feel like that the way that this team has responded in times of adversity, when faced with adversity, rather, is that they are on it. I feel like that this team knows how to come together. They've got a good mix of young guys who are still trying to get that experience down. But I look at like a Jack Janicki type of guy who is this walk-on redshirt freshman who has the moxie to care. It doesn't matter how much PT he's gotten before. He's a guy who's happy to jump in and just go into the wildfire here. But also you get Max Klesmit, you get Steven Crowell, you get John Tonje as well too. I'm surprised I didn't even mention him. You got a lot of leaders in this group. So again, you got guys who are hungry. You got guys that are leaders in this group too. And I feel like that this is meshing well together. When Nolan had mentioned to us too is that they wanted to play that Washington game right after they lost to Oregon, like that same night if they could have. I really like the way that that they respond to it as well. And yes, the way that I don't see the way that like last year's team started to go downhill a little bit and they were not in their best of all strides coming into March. I don't necessarily see that with this Wisconsin team. If anything, you know what? I'll call it right here. I think actually that Wisconsin, even with their even though they could have been a double bye, I could see them winning this tournament 100%. It's a tough road. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, yeah,
but you're at a neutral site.
I could see the Ducks winning the tournament. I mean, that just speaks to
they're just showing them
the general
right now too, winning the Pac-12
mediocrity of the Big Ten. Like
mediocrity. I don't think
this team is loaded with premier teams. I think this is a league that has maybe Michigan State and a bunch of teams that could win or lose on any night too. Like honestly, if you looked from the 2 seed down to like the 10 seed. I could see any of them winning or losing anyone.
Well, we've said that about the Badgers. The Badgers have even said it too. Is that there's no guaranteed wins in this conference. Right. I mean, again,
if your 9 seed is 19-12, it's just a bunch of solid teams. There's nobody. There's just not a plethora of teams that I see are elite this year.
Well, we saw higher seeds, I believe, win yesterday too, and take that with a grain of salt. But again, it just goes back to the point of nothing's guaranteed in the Big Ten and in the Big Ten Conference too. When you have these one-off games, and again, a team just gets hot at the right time. Like I said, you know what? Looking at the path, they'll beat Northwestern today. Then they get set up most likely with Michigan State. That's a rematch there. And yeah, they missed what was it, 30 something shot, 33s? What were the stats? Riley, it sounds like you got something over there.
I just want to hear, Jim, would you say Michigan State is an elite team?
That's the only team. I'm saying that's why I said 2 through 10. I don't know. I mean, they're not bad. I think there's a bunch of good teams, good to mediocre teams that can beat anyone and lose to anyone. There's not a dramatic difference between Michigan and Wisconsin for me, or the Ducks and Wisconsin. The Ducks are playing obviously hotter. They've won 7 in a row, and they're up 5 right now in the Big Ten tournament. But and the Badgers have not, like I said, played very well the last few games. So I get what you're saying, but I don't think it's that bold of a statement because it's really, I think, speaks more to the overall state of the conference than my faith in the Badgers. Because if you go faith in the Badgers, they have not played a good game since what? I guess the Washington game. But they have not played a good team against a good opponent. And Illinois was streaking the wrong way at that point. But if you want to give them February 18th against Illinois, fine. Otherwise, February 15th. That's the last time where you say, you know what? That was a hell of a game against a hell of an opponent when they played Purdue, and they won 94-84. Illinois was a disaster when they played them. But that's a 2-day difference, so I don't really care. So mid-February is the last time they've played a really good game against a really good team.
I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the stats too. I really want this Michigan State rematch just because, again, if the Badgers went 22 of 65 from the field. You missed what the math 65 minus 22. That's 40. You missed 43 shots.
Tell me Michigan State did either. Michigan State wasn't lighting the world on fire.
Yeah, but there's no way that you missed 43 shots again.
There's no way Michigan State misses the same amount of shots. Michigan State is known for their defense. This wasn't an accident. The Badgers are not going to come out and shoot dramatically better, maybe 5% better, but they lost pretty handily. 71-62 is not a tight game.
Those are good looks, though. It's not like the Badgers were forcing up.
But on the
shots.
flip side of it, Richardson and Carr basically missed the first half. When they were healthy in the second half, that game got out of hand. They had the Badgers on a string there. So they were able to hang around in the first half. So could Wisconsin beat Michigan State? Absolutely. But I'm saying that if I'm betting it, I'm betting against it. I mean, any of these. Michigan State's the only elite team I say that's in the Big Ten. Now, a lot of these teams can get hot. I'm not disagreeing with your point, but the Badgers are probably of there's probably 5 or 6 teams that I could say, they get to the Big Ten championship game, anything happens.
I'm standing by it, man. I'm gonna call it. I'll call the upset. I'll be the.
You're being the homer. It's easy. Call the upset. Nobody cares if you're wrong. Nobody cares if you're wrong. What if I call the upset? I say Northwestern wins today because I feel more comfortable saying that than I say the Badgers win the Big Ten.
They're coming in hot, quite literally too.
Well, yes, they are coming in hot, quite literally. I will say this. I think we can agree on this part of it. Push the panic button if they lose to Northwestern because they are missing their number 1 rebounder and their best 3-point shooter.
Yes.
And so it is a major problem. So the case to be made, I guess, I shouldn't even say this, but let's first talk about the Badgers getting Max Klesmit back from injury because if anything, if I'm going to give the Badgers grace for not reaching my expectations, which is what I'm preparing myself for now, not being a Sweet 16 team.
You're trying to just soften it, huh?
It's going to be because of injuries. But let's start with Max Klesmit coming back. And I mean this is more of a defense of him and the team. He's not going to be 100%. You don't miss all this time, whether it's athletic conditioning or just in general. You don't. When you're injured during a basketball season, you don't hold out until you feel 100%. You hold out till you can play, which is a different. So Klesmit's healthy enough to play. I don't think Klesmit's 100%, and so that's going to be something the Badgers are going to have to monitor.
I still feel like to an extent he brings something that the Badgers have been lacking. Like I feel like in my mind, there's 3 things that I feel like Max Klesmit brings to this group is. As Nolan had alluded to it over the last few weeks, is that the leadership, even though he was on the bench and he was watching practice from the side, he's still barking at guys. He's still making sure that guys are not missing their assignments. He's making sure that he's a vocal leader. Having that guy on the court from just watching the way that he helps patrol, he's not a guy that's going to light up the scoreboard unless it's Marquette for some reason. I have no idea why. That's the game he always picks, but hey, it is what it is. It's always cool to see him put up 30 in those games. But I feel like that's one thing, is his vocal leadership and the fact that he can kind of calm things down, like the leadership I was mentioning in general too. That is so key to have. Secondly, I just feel like too that he is truly through and through. Not saying that other guys aren't as committed, but he's a Wisconsin guy through and through. He's from Neenah. He came in from after.
No, Chris will get mad at you for that because he says you don't have to be from Wisconsin to be a Badger.
No, I'm not, and I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to knock other guys saying that you have to be a Wisconsin guy for in order to get it. But a few weeks ago too was he was quoted from Greg Gard saying that. You gave me the opportunity to wear this jersey. I'm forever going to be grateful for that. And Greg Gard was, he was just, lit up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah, because he didn't have to pay him.
That.
Yes. That was the gist of the story. The Klesmit's like, nah, you don't have to pay me. I get to wear the jersey. Yeah, every coach loves that.
He's committed.
Coach loves that guy.
You know what I mean? What? Okay, look. Hey, listen. All I'm saying is that he's like beyond committed to this. He's got 2 more games guaranteed as a Wisconsin Badger.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. There isn't a lift to it, but like in a tangible aspect of it, Kamari McGee and Janecki did a very good job filling in. Kamari McGee is a hell of a leader and a gritty guy, and so there's some 3-point shooting. Klesmit will bring something, but in general, I don't think we're getting. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I'm just going to assume a guy coming off an injury, no matter how hard he wants to be, just giving him grace and the benefit of the doubt. You're coming off injury. You're going to get like an 80% Klesmit. He's not that he's not going to try 100%. He's not going to be able to do everything that he was able to do. Speaking of, the injury report is out. Nolan Winter in, Max Klesmit in. Nolan Winter, let's get to him. Because as much as we love Klesmit, Winter, not just because he's the regular on the show, was the more important player to play today. Because my point, there is depth around Klesmit and leadership there's not a tangible part to it. And again, there's plenty of leaders on this team, in Badgers through and through, like Kamari McGee and others. Not having Nolan Winter, and I still got to see how much he plays, that would have been a bigger issue because you have Stephen Krall, who I'm not counting on, and then Ilver and Amos. It's like you don't have the bodies there in the post. It really would have been devastating. And if Nolan Winter is not 100% and he can't play to his level, that's going to be a huge detriment to the Badgers winning the Big Ten tournament or doing anything in the NCAA tournament.
So what you're telling me, so you would rather, it's more of a concern if Nolan Winter's not 100% versus Max Klesmit.
If I
They're
could
both
choose,
in,
yes.
If you could choose.
If I could choose, I want 100% Nolan Winter. And that's not a disrespect to Klesmit. Yeah. It just speaks to the depth of the Badgers. You got Blackwell, you have Tanjay, obviously you have McGee, and you have Janecki. Like, those are all players that can handle the ball and make plays out there. There's just not as many bigs.
You're not expecting you're not expecting Max Klesmit to be the guy at the guard position. You expect him to fill at least that kind of point guard, shooting guard hybrid role that he's jumped into.
He's a rotational.
Right.
I don't mean this in a mean way. He's a rotational guard.
Yes.
So, and that could be even if as a starter, Kamari McGee might have the better game. Klesmit might have the better game. I trust guard to go with, if Janecki's playing well. Like, let's say Klesmit comes out and he's rusty, which is not impossible. I just don't want to put too much on his plate. If he comes out and he's rusty, I still feel confident McGee and Janecki are fully capable of stepping in and playing. I just don't have the same confidence if Winter was out that Ilver and Amos could step up.
It does make the guys fresher, that's for sure. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yes,
I don't think anyone's going to be, especially Greg Gard, I don't think anyone's going to be upset that more bodies are going to be on the floor. I mean, obviously Max Klesmit is more than just a body on that floor, but you get what I'm saying from the minutes distribution is that, hey, it's been awesome that Kamari McGee and Jack Janecki have been stepping up like no other right now in this role, or in the roles that they've taken on. But the fact that you add Max Klesmit, even if he's not 100%, hopefully you think he's somewhere between that. I don't know. I guess it's hard to gauge of what a 60, 80% is, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He might not even be 100%, but the fact that he's at least putting in some minutes and giving these guys some rest that are fully healthy or 100% or closer to 100%, that helps out this team. There is one thing, too, where this was interesting from a Badger of Honor stat that we came across on X, was that they do pose the question of, does Max Klesmit help John Tonje be at his best? Because the 4 games that Max Klesmit missed, Tonje had 13 points, 11, 18, and 13 points. 4 games that were some of his top scoring, Tonje had 22, 32, 31, and 22. Those are games that Max Klesmit was in. So I'm not saying that we've talked about this. We're trying to figure out exactly what is going on with John Tonje. Is he losing? I don't think he's losing his confidence, honestly. I don't think he's losing confidence. It's just where is he at? Is he one of those guys that might be a little injured and he's not driving as much? Our defense is collapsing a little bit. I do want to see a little bit more of that aggression. I want to see him take off. I want to see him drive to the rim. I want to see him play a little bit more of that drive from the perimeter basketball where, hey, we could see some human highlight reels. I love that. I'm not saying Max Klesmit is the complete X factor as to why John Tonje is getting cold, but just looking at the numbers here, there's got to be something. There's got to be something that he takes out of him.
Klesmit played the Oregon game?
Klesmit, I think like 5 minutes or something or maybe it was Washington.
Because he was.
There was one game he was active, but he played like 5 minutes.
Because Tonje was 9 of 20 and 2 of 10 from 3 in the Oregon game, so it may have just been he's gotten cold. I don't think Klesmit, and this is not a disrespect to Klesmit, Tonje is good enough to not be affected by Klesmit playing or not playing. And I think I get it. People love Klesmit because also in a way that Badger fans like, he's demonstrative and he's all these storylines. But as a basketball player, I will die on this hill. Kamari McGee is every bit the player, and even as a leader. So this is not a disrespect to Klesmit, and I think it's still good to have him back. But we're not adding another John Tonje. We're adding a nice rotational player who Badger fans love, and he's a good basketball player. And as a rotational guard, which he is this year, this team is better than it had been because they don't need Klesmit. They have McGee, Janecki, Blackwell, Tonje, and then also Klesmit. And if Klesmit's on, great. Because here's the flip side is Klesmit. He did play the Oregon game because he took that horrible shot at the end of the game.
Yeah, that's right. He did.
So Klesmit also gets into hero ball at moments. Like for everything good he has, he is also someone who thinks he's better at shooting than he is, or will shoot good and bad. Doesn't have a conscious shooting. So if he'll take shots with the confidence they're going to go in. But there are times, again, in no world. And I'm not going to break my TV, but I will throw something on the ground if Max Klesmit's taking a shot at the end of the game. Now, if Tonje's driving and kicks it to Klesmit for a shot, that's different. But Blackwell or Tonje, at the end of the game, not Klesmit, not anyone else, should have the ball in their hand with the decision to be made.
I feel like that, again, I'm going to stick to the guns of that Klesmit still elevates this group.
He does because it's another body. Like it moves everyone into when you add a starting pitcher and everyone gets to slot down a little bit. That's important.
Yes, and that's where I feel like it is right now.
I don't disagree with that part of it.
Yeah, I feel like Klesmit, because he has been the solidified starter, that's his role that he knows. Kamari McGee's the in between because I think it's Klesmit, McGee, and Janecki. Janecki's just fun. He's just letting loose. He's kind of figuring out as he goes.
He's inconsistent.
McGee, McGee gets it, but obviously he doesn't have as many reps as Klesmit does at the starter role.
Yeah.
So like that's why bringing him back here and having him
Getting
now,
him
I
back
think
is
good.
important, but I mean they wouldn't have beat Michigan State, and honestly I think they still would have lost to Penn State with Klesmit.
Yeah.
They would have maybe played better against Minnesota. I'll give you that one. But
having Nolan out for Penn State was that is the bigger one. That's,
right, because it's Klesmit's a better player at this point in his career, but Nolan Winter is more important because you don't have any bigs. You have Kroll and Winter, and that's who you can count on. So I want to switch over a little bit. Well, actually, so give me your prediction. You got them winning the Big Ten tournament?
I got him winning it all. I'm gonna say it's happening.
All right, and then you have them as a 3 seed in Milwaukee. Then
let's do it.
All right,
let's do it.
Let's
get magical, man. Let's do this. March is here.
I have them beating Northwestern, losing to Michigan State, getting a 4 seed.
Still good.
And again, was that what are they? So they're 4th, obviously. I had them as the 4th or 5th best team in the Big Ten for the majority of the season, and I think that's what they are, and I think that's what they'll finish as.
I think Joe Lunardi had the latest bracketology has them as the lowest 4 seed, which top 16.
Okay, so I hope hopefully they look good against Michigan State, so they can hold that 4 seed.
Yes. You think they lose it even like depending
if they're the lowest 4 seed depends what now they're vulnerable to what other if the 5 seed I don't know his whole thing, but let's say his highest 5 seed goes and wins their tournament or makes a run. Then they're vulnerable to get knocked down. I don't think they do. I think they lose their 4 seed if they lose Northwestern.
Okay.
And I think they should. You can't end your season losing to Penn State and Northwestern and expect to keep your seeding. I don't think they will. I think they're going to look good today, and I think they're going to win this Northwestern game going away. And then Michigan State, I think, will play out similar to last time.
I'm full homer.
Don't
I'm
they
full
have
homer
UCLA?
On this.
Well, he's the one that said Michigan State. So
that's right.
So
They
we're
would have
assuming,
UCLA.
Yeah, so they beat Northwestern, then they'd play UCLA, and then there'd be Michigan State in the semis if they make it that far.
Full revenge tour.
So
full revenge tour
Pablo,
to the championship.
I was just going off the bracket he gave.
That's right.
UCLA will be a tight one.
I went. I got a little overzealous.
I think that one I would call it like a toss up, and that way I'll go homer. In a toss up game, I'll go to Wisconsin. I just think Michigan State is better, legitimately head and shoulders better than everyone in the Big Ten, not just the Badgers. Mm-hmm. But I think Wisconsin could beat UCLA for sure if that's the matchup they get. All right, I want to get to football here. The spring practices started up. I want to get out there and see some of it. But Colton Bartholomew wrote a great piece for the Wisconsin State Journal, and I'm excited. Look, the Badgers' schedule, it really needs to temper expectations. So I think I just want to put a disclaimer out now. When I say I'm excited about the Badgers, I don't even know if I'm talking specifically about the idea of the wins and losses for this team and what they're going to be in the long run. What I'm talking about is the vibes are going to be better. They're going to look like a Badger team that's competent. They're going to go to a bowl game, and it's going to feel like the best season the Badgers have had under Fickell. So that could still be 7 wins, and maybe they win the bowl game and gets them to 8. But for me, that's the way I look at it. Is this team is going to be a team that I think Badger fans are going to get excited about, and it starts with the Jeff Grimes offense and the wide zone run and the play action, and I love that. It takes the pressure off the quarterback, and it allows Billy Edwards Jr., who I think will win that job or hold that job, I think it's his to lose, to be a quarterback who doesn't have to. This is sad. I'm sorry. I keep on getting distracted here. I think this is McCaffrey crying on the bench there because he's done for Butler because the Butler's going to lose 70. Well, they're going to get they're losing 74-55, so they're done with their tournament, and the youngest McCaffrey who plays for Butler is on the sideline crying. It's that time of year where I hate it because he's done. Butler's not going to 14-18.
Yeah,
I don't even think they make the what was the CYA tournament?
The YMCA,
whatever is before the NIT, like the
third
lower
place,
right?
Yeah, because FAU is dancing around it, and they I don't know if they're going to get an invitation to it. So he's probably done. But anyways, Badger football. I was just distracted. This guy was sobbing.
This CBI, the college basketball invitation.
Yeah,
wow,
there's
a lot.
There's the Gatorade towel on his head, just sobbing. That's the sad part this time of year is these kids. A lot of their careers are over, but. Back to Badger football. Sorry for getting distracted. Sometimes I'm like a dog with a toy, and that one I could not.
I'm surprised.
Not reference that.
I'm surprised you got distracted by the TVs over me. I thought it was going to be me first.
And
that
I was
would mention
into it, but here's the full distraction. There's Jonathan Taylor on TV right there. Hey, right there. Former Badger, great. Now that was a Badger. That guy had some Big Ten moments.
Super nice guy too.
Best dude.
So nice.
Former ESPN Madison intern.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back to the basketball side of things, it caught my eye because McCaffrey, because Caitlin Clark is dating one of the McCaffrey. I think he's a coach on.
Yes.
Not the kid that just went to the bench, but one of the coaches. And so that's why initially I saw McCaffrey. I'm like, I don't think that's the guy I've seen with Caitlin Clark. And then they cut to his brother, who's a coach on Butler, and that looked like the guy that I've seen like in photos. Well, Caitlin was just at a game, and the two of them were together.
Connor McCaffrey.
Yeah, so
it's
Connor
McCaffrey.
Yeah, so Connor is a coach on Butler, and then his brother must be one of the players. So that's how I got fully distracted into it. But
Come to us for Badger talk and hot goss too.
Yes.
That's what we got going on here on the jump around.
But what I do like for Badger football, bringing it back here, and we don't have to go too long on this, but like I'm excited. I do think that Jeff Grimes is going to run an offense that Badger fans are going to feel good about. I think we're going to have 2,000 yards on the ground. Over that, I think we're going to have an overall, like we're going to have good yards per carry. We're going to have a functional offense. We're not going to have this sort of 4th and 1 fiascos, goal line stand fiascos where you can't score. I think we're going to, I think very quickly we'll just use Illinois, because I don't think Illinois is that good. They catch the right schedules, and again, I'm not a believer in Bielema. I think they're maximizing what they can do. I think Wisconsin can quickly get back to the Illinois level. Again, wins and losses is a little dicier because their schedule is impossible. But you win a few games, then you hang in another game, and it doesn't feel fluky. The players start to believe. So I feel like this team is going to win 7 and get to the bowl game, but maybe they sneak an 8th in there. And that's just where I'm at with this team, because I do think that they've adjusted their personnel and they've put their money where their mouth is as far as the player development, the players they've recruited, and the coaching staff they brought in to get back to what Wisconsin knows it can do well.
There is, you mentioned it a little bit, 4th and 1 plays. There is one thing that I'm really hoping that Jeff Grimes does not do compared to the last offensive coordinator is run out a shotgun on 4th and short.
Yeah,
Please, for the love of God, do not do that. I don't want. Why would we ever? Why do we do that? I think Barry even complained about that too on the Great Dan Huddle.
Famously, yes.
He texted Brad Nessler about it during the USC game.
Why would we? Why are we out of shotgun on 4th down?
Well, because the thing is, it's one of those that fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. The Badgers were doing like it was more than one time.
You knew what was coming,
right? But
you knew what was coming. Even the element of surprise if you line up in shotgun and then just go. Right under center. Try to get a count. I don't know.
Well, there was no threat of the quarterback. There was no threat to do anything else.
Yeah.
Like pull it back and throw it, or like because they don't. I just want to, you bring this up, and it goes to, and I've seen this, and you're a Bears fan as well, but we can get into it in a second.
Yeah, I know where you're going with
this. But it's just this bad play calling because it's multiple levels. When the Badgers line up in that formation on 4th and 1 out of the shotgun. And Chicago had this problem in the NFL. You never run anything else out of that formation, and you never run it otherwise. So the team knows that they can crash hard to the middle. And if you haven't practiced other options, where in this case, obviously Locke was not a guy who could pull it out and run realistically unless the whole world sold out maybe and get you that yard. So you have no threat of a quarterback run. You've built nothing else off of it where you could fake a pass or like they have to respect anything else. So now you have the entire world knowing you're going to run with no deception and the entire team caving in on it. And that's the problem I had with it. Running out of shotgun isn't the end of the world in that situation if you're showing that formation over and over again and doing different things out of it. And they never did. So then if you have no art of deception, which is the whole point of the shotgun, then what's the point of running out of the shotgun on that 4th and inches? You might as well, with no art of deception, then just go with the more likely play to succeed, which is bigger bodies in there and try to push some people back with a shorter distance to get to where you need to get to. So that's what killed me because the Bears did the same thing. You can't just run a formation out one dang time and be like, that's it. Like
that's our secret sauce that everyone's going to stop.
People aren't idiots. You got one play you run out of this thing forever. And I'm sure Phil Longo did all the way back in North Carolina. So, like, when you see it come out there, everyone knows they got no other options. They're just going to hand it off here. They don't have anything they can build off it because Locke can't run, and there's no play there's no option to pass even built into this formation.
There was that silly, like, misdirection where it's like they line up in shotgun, and it's like, yeah, it's the fake option here. You know what's going to happen, right. And it's just terrible. Shout out to college football, the video game, for helping me recognize that too. But
see, the wild thing is they ran where the quarterback kept it one time against Rutgers, and it worked perfectly. And Locke had like a 10-yard touchdown run, and they never did it again.
Right,
We did it. All right. That was the one time.
In their mind, they're like, well, we can only run it once because the whole world has to sell on it. Because if they don't, Locke's not getting you that yard.
You know what I was a little disappointed about, because I was at the practice when they ran this. They actually put together the Philly special and it looked smooth. I think they did do it during like this, but when they pulled it out, it was for a 2-point conversion at Purdue. And they were up like 30 at this point. It looked smooth when they had it with Tanner Mordecai that season. I was at that practice, and I'm just thinking to myself, I see this from like the 200 section or whatever. I'm like, woo! That's going to look cold. And this was a spring practice, too. They never pulled it out. Except, well, they did one time. Why didn't they? It's like you pull it off once and people are going to know, but like I think like the Ohio State game, that would have been a perfect time to do it. It would have been a great time to do it. Penn State even.
True.
Penn State last season. You got, or Penn State or Oregon. You got both of those teams on the ropes. You might as well pull that play out again. I know it's a different quarterback, but it's not like you're probably practicing that.
Yeah, we're both optimistic on this team, and I like the play calling going forward. And look, I also maintain this. I think it's fair to say, on the conservative side, if the Badgers had their starting quarterback throughout the year, the last 2 years, they win at least one more game each year.
Yep.
So that this is not a team coming off of not making a bowl game. So that's just, I mean, it's still they are that team, but I do think that does need to account. So I don't think this roster is, just completely dearth of talent. Like, there's just nobody there. I just think that they need to figure out how to call plays properly and then have a quarterback be healthy. But this time around, I do like, obviously, Billy Edwards Jr., the quarterback they got from San Diego State, now a sophomore, but the guy started a true freshman from Indiana. His name, Danny O'Neal, I believe. He is someone that I do think is capable. And then Carter Smith is someone that I don't want to see play regularly as a starter, but maybe they can work a few things in for him and get him in. The hope is you're up in some of these games and handling business, and you get some of these other guys some looks without burning a red shirt. All right, I want to get some news and notes, and then we'll get to Nolan Winter. All three players that are up for the National Player of the Year in women's hockey are Badgers. That's pretty exciting here. Caroline Harvey, Casey O'Brien, Layla Edwards are all up for the Patty Kazmaier Award, and it's the second time in school history they've produced all three finalists. Actually, I'm sorry. Second time it's ever happened, one school doing it. Minnesota did it in 2013, but I believe the Badgers had 2 out of the 3 last year. So, like Mark Johnson, Badger women's hockey, realistically, we're a hockey school, then a volleyball school.
Yeah.
I mean, but like that's women's hockey, women's volleyball. That's what Wisconsin is fantastic at.
The pedigree of or how the foundation that Mark Johnson has just laid down consistently. Like it was being in those press conferences every single year of, hey, how do you make sure that this team stays level-headed? He's like, it's exactly that. It's knowing that it's like it is. You are only as good as your last game, but we have to make sure that we ride those highs and lows. We go through the ebbs and flows of a season, and everybody, like players, coaching staff, always admires like how level-headed Mark Johnson is, even though it's like you're going through the trials and tribulations of. In fact, actually, I remember covering the team when they won their record-breaking national championship. That was actually a down year earlier in that season, and they came back and rallied and won the national championship. I'd love for them to just keep going for number 8. Also, regardless, whoever wins the Patty Kazmaier Award, that's going to tie them with Harvard for the most National Player of the Year awards. That's incredible. The fact that they don't own that record, they probably will soon. Like that, there's just so many different things. But always excited for this time of the year too. Can't wait to see who they pair up against. If we're watching Wisconsin basketball, but if you're here this weekend in Madison, go over to LeBron Arena and go watch them on Saturday. I think they either have Boston University or Clarkson to hopefully go to the Frozen Four.
Yeah, that women's team deserves your support. Just like Badger volleyball, which we love to support here on the Jumper on ESPN Madison. We are the home for Badger volleyball. We are the network for Badger volleyball. We're proud of that here. Marissa Mosley resigns as head coach of the Wisconsin women's basketball team. 47-75 over 4 seasons, and it was I guess we'll say tumultuous time for her. Mm-hmm. You don't win, and you have multiple allegations of misconduct, and then I believe the Wisconsin State Journal, Jim Polzine, reached out to a bunch of former players. He put this in an article. You can read it at the State Journal, basically asking if any of them wanted to defend Mosley, and none of them did. And one of them, I think, said they had signed a non-disclosure. So, not good for Wisconsin, not good for Mosley. I do hope that the athletes who were affected by Mosley, if they were affected in a negative way, are rebounding well. There's also been a mass departure of the best players for Badger basketball right now. They're all in the portal, which I guess in theory they could come back. I don't know if you have thoughts on who the new coach should be, but it's been a long time since the Badgers have been able to really, I don't remember Badger women's basketball being of note consistently in my 16, 17 years since I moved back to Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's just it's an unfortunate way for this era to end, especially when that story came out, and it just hurts your heart to hear about, whether I don't know exactly where to go with these allegations, to be totally honest. At the end of the day, it is just like sad and disheartening to hear that, because everybody, you want every Wisconsin team to be competitive. You want them to be at the top of their game. So, I don't know exactly where to go with it, to be honest, and just hoping that things just move forward and we move into a positive direction. Going to the coaching candidates, I know that Tamara Moore, who is a Dallas Mavericks NBA scout. Not just Michael Finley's not the only Badger that's worked with the Dallas Mavericks. You got Tamara Moore out there too. She's a former Badger. She's from Wisconsin. So that would be awesome. Like, why not get somebody who has those Wisconsin? We talked about this in a different way last week with football. Hey, I guess, like, what is Wisconsin women's basketball culture? Maybe that was the point of bringing Marissa Mosley in, somebody who learned from Gino over at UConn and could build that type of culture that Gino had built for a very long time, successful. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out. So why not bring somebody who knows a little bit about Wisconsin basketball, who truly knows Wisconsin basketball? That would be cool for me if we're looking at Tamara Moore. A lot of good options out there, though.
Can I just, and maybe she's too old and too past, but I wonder, and I'm probably missing something here, so I literally just Googled the name. Do you know what I'm going to go to? Badger.
Hit me.
A legendary name in Badger basketball. The last name. Bennett. Kathy Bennett.
Oh, okay.
She last coached college basketball, though, 10 years ago. She is an assistant at Edgewood. But she's 61 years old, I believe. But she has coached a long time. She's 353 and 270. And I don't know what Wisconsin's looking for. And she coached Indiana. So she's coached a lot of different teams. And I don't know, but she's been out of the game for a long time. But I don't really know what Wisconsin is doing anymore. I don't mean that in a mean way.
Yeah.
I would rather have Moore over Bennett, but it's just a name that popped up because for a while there she was viewed as a pretty good coach in women's basketball. She might.
Yeah.
I don't know if 61 to 62 is old for coaching anymore. I don't know, because it's not. The reason why I say specific for women's basketball is because every sport kind of has their own sort of age window on this. So, and maybe she's just not good enough, but she's still darn near over 100 games, over 500.
I mean, I've even heard high school coaches too who have been around for a while here in the state saying that they love doing what they do, but they also recognize that it's a younger game, and as much as they want to keep doing all these, and it's just like different loops. And yes, this is at the high school level from those conversations I've had, but there is some merit to it. I mean, when you move up to college, it's not like it changes by any means to it. It's more just about how things are changing, what else you have to deal with at the college level, again, with recruiting, NIL, portal, all of those things. It's a 25/8 366 type of job from what it sounds like. And not saying that Coach Bennett I'm sure would be amazing at this, but really it's more so of a to each their own. Is this where they want to go, or do they want to take a pass and give it to somebody who is fresh and has this idea of building a culture and can bring in those ideas.
And I'm trying to find a list here of names to know, but good Lord, I'm just going to make a recommendation. If you're trying to put stuff like this behind a paywall, I'm just not going to read it. It's not that hard to find someone.
Support local journo, man. Support local journo.
No, be better. Wow. I'll say this a million times. Paywalls killed local journalism.
We see this with the streaming wars too,
right? But in this case,
we were going to get into this.
I just would like to point this out. As I go to a site that has a paywall, there's also 7 ads all over the page.
Yeah.
So that's not the local journalist problem. That is whoever owns those dang companies not understanding that people would rather charge someone more per ad and then allow the content to be free, because then people will go there. You want to know why the State Journal can't keep Packers coverage? Because you make it impossible to read anything. And how many places am I going to pay for something? I can get Packers coverage anywhere. I'm glad Jason Wilde's writing for Channel 3000 because I can go there and read stuff.
Yeah.
And actually read it not behind a paywall. But I found somewhere. So Vanessa Blair Lewis from George Mason is a name that popped up on this list. Aaron Johnston from San Diego State.
Northern Iowa's coach. I think I saw that list that you're talking about.
Tanya
Northern
Warren,
Iowa's
Tanya Warren, or
coach
Tanya
under?
Warren. I don't know why I didn't read that right. It's my wife's name. Tanya Warren. That's so funny. I get so mad at people when they call her Tanya. But Tanya Warren.
I did know a Tanya, though. So
and I
it was
guess
spelled
some
the
have.
same way.
So my wife's is spelled like Tanya Tucker.
It's like have you seen the other guys?
Yeah.
If not, it's like a Christineth. Like,
Okay, yes.
Christineth!
Anyway, pedigree wise, Raina Harmon from Iowa, assistant coach. If it's attached to Iowa, I'm in. And then you look at Kelly Comera from Purdue, so Big Ten coaches. Brad Fisher from UW Oshkosh, that's a name people would know.
Hunter was all over that. Like, I know Hunter Vaughn over here, our teammate here in ESPN Madison. He was ecstatic to know that UW Oshkosh's coach might be up for that. So we got to get him in.
Kerry Moore from Harvard, and then Tamara Moore, Dallas Mavericks scout, is on this list as well, and Morgan Page, Kansas associate head coach. So I was way wrong on the idea of Kathy Bennett. All right. Sometimes you just throw some things out there.
Hey.
I just remember for a hot minute, Badger fans, like the idea was why not bring her in?
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that long ago. But we're going to get to Nolan Winter in a minute. But do not forget to get out to Steinhafels and test rest a Beauty Rest Black for your chance to win a dream vacation to Hawaii. Right now, save up to $400 on a Beauty Rest Black mattress. Upgrade your sleep to an adjustable base, and you'll save up to $300. Plus, get a $300 in Steinhafels cash with 60-month financing. A Queen Beauty Rest Black mattress can be yours for just $38 per month. Don't overpay for a good night's sleep. Shop Steinhafels in-store or online. Here is Nolan Winter.
It's time to celebrate and save big during Steinhafels Happy-Go-Lucky sale. Get some of our best deals of the year. Plus, save up to $100 off your purchase with your exclusive Happy-Go-Lucky scratch-off card. And you'll be smiling when you use Steinhafels' special 60-month financing. Steinhafels Happy-Go-Lucky sale is happening now. Shop in-store or online at steinhafels.com. Relax, it's Steinhafels.
Welcome into the jump around, and it is a special edition. We're going to take this on a Tuesday because we're joined by Nolan Winter, and he's got basketball coming up a little bit later. So we're not going to pretend that we're taping this with Nolan right before the game on Thursday. That would maybe raise some eyebrows there. But Nolan, thanks for hopping on it and joining us this afternoon so we can talk to you before you guys make your way to the Big Ten tournament.
Yes, sir. Of course. Thanks for having me once again.
Yeah, it's good to have you, and good to see that you were able to get back in the game, and sounds like you're going to be on track to give it a go. So tell us, how you're feeling, and then also in the moment, like what happened there. What was your thought when you first because you can tell when you're watching the game that you clearly go to your arm and you're like, what's going on? So walk us through that.
Yeah. In the first half, it was a routine play, and I just kind of got popped in the shoulder a little bit, and I knew I kind of tweaked something. And as the game kind of went on, it just kind of starting to tighten up more and more on me. And then, as I went and got that putback dunk, it really just kind of set off and shot throughout my arm and kind of down my back. So I knew something was off, so didn't want to keep playing and hurt the team's chances. So I came out and got some tests and all that kind of stuff with our trainer. But we're taking it day by day here. We're going through practice pretty light this week, and hoping we can play Thursday and give it a go. It's what we work all year for, is the March tournament. So I want to be out there with the guys as much as possible.
Nolan, as you recover, one of the guys that we noticed, at least from the Wisconsin Instagram, is that Max Klesmit looks like he's back at practice too. I know the last time you were here on the jump around, you mentioned that he was kind of coaching from the sidelines and doing everything he could to make sure that you guys were practicing hard. What was it like to see him back on the practice floor this week?
It was awesome. Obviously, he's one of our leaders on the team, so having him out there and kind of hearing his voice from on the court instead of the sidelines, it was good to see. And, it was good to see him being able to practice fully yesterday. And there was a different kind of energy throughout the practice, so it was good to have him back.
It has to be strange because obviously Kamari and Jack did a really good job with Max gone, but the team, for whatever the reason, it could have just been the wear and tear of the Big Ten.
Seems like maybe lost some steam as it went along. It did time up with Max's injuries, but at the same time, the players played well. So how important is it to be able to get Max back on the court during your hitting tournament time, the Big Ten tournament and March Madness? Obviously still respecting what Kamari and Jack were able to do.
Yeah, obviously, like you said, those two guys did a really good job of picking up the last time there. But, with Max, he's just such a competitor, and we know what we're going to get out of him when he's on the court, and we know it's tournament time. So everyone wants to be out there giving it their all. So, no, it's awesome to have Max back and the energy he brings to us and the leadership out there. So, obviously, for tournament time, he's going to be a much-needed piece for us.
And Nolan, too, to talk about this, obviously it was a little bit of a sour note for you guys to end on that Penn State loss, but what is that mindset like? Are you guys holding on to that game, or is it more of now that postseason's here, everything's back to zeros from the record, from everything? How are you guys approaching these next few games?
Yeah, I mean, it's a new season now. Like, there's no feeling sorry for ourselves because we know if we do that again, it's going to be over. Like, it's no mistakes from here on out. So, obviously, yeah, that was a gut punch, and that sucked for our seniors and for everybody. But moving forward, we know it's a new season, and we can't look behind ourselves now, and the only way is forward. So we're going to get back in practice and clean up some things and get ready to go for March.
Yeah, it does seem like the last few games, the Minnesota game as well, and you're able to pull that one out, Penn State, it does remind you that you can't take anything off. And not that you were reading your own press clippings, but I'm sure Greg Gard is reminding everyone, don't read your press clippings. You're only as good as the last game you play.
Exactly. Yeah, and going forward and throughout practice this week, we've had a lot of meetings that are along those lines, just stick together as a team. And, things might not be going our way right now, but there's no reason that we can't compete with the best of the best, and we know we have that in us. So just getting back to our roots and obviously having Max back for this journey, that's going to be huge.
Hey, best of the best, and it's award seasons too. Just moments ago, some All Big Ten honorees for your teammates. We knew that John was going to be an All Big Ten first team selection, but I got to ask about John Blackwell. Awesome to see him on the honorable mention, but let's be honest, do you think he deserves a little bit more?
Yeah, I do, and everyone within the program does. But I know John, and he's not going to get wound up in that. He doesn't care much about the awards and where he gets placed. He's just going to go out there and give it his all. But as his teammate and as his brother, I know that he deserves to be higher, and he should have gotten higher recognition. And I wish I could push for that, but there's nothing we can do now. And as a team, we're gonna go and fight. And I know him; he doesn't care too much about that, but someone's got to advocate for him. So I know the team's going to kind of try to step up and talk for him, but because we know he won't. But no, I think he deserves to be higher. But at the same time, it's whatever. It's just awards. That doesn't mean much. We want the big team award at the end of the year.
Yeah, and without forcing it, I still think Blackwell can show with his play. He deserved a little bit more in this Big Ten tournament, absolutely. I do want to reference one of your old teammates, though. In this day and age, it's just part of the business now. The players moving in different directions. Chucky Hepburn, ACC Defensive Player of the Year. That's got to be fun. You don't have to play him, so it's got to be fun to root for him to do all that. And maybe you'll see him at some point, but it's got to be fun to see him have success from afar.
Yeah, I mean, we still keep in touch. He was one of my brothers. He took me in under his wing from day one, so it's good to see him having success out there. And I know a lot of the guys on the team are still in touch with him, so it's good to see him succeed out there, and I'm happy for him.
That's awesome that you guys still stay in touch too. What's before he made the announcement to the team? What's a piece of advice that you think Chucky gave you that helped get you to where you are today?
Just stick with it. It's a long season. You're going to have injuries. You're going to go through ups and downs. And Chucky's one of the more steady-headed people that I know with his game. If things aren't going his way, he's not going to let his body language or anything kind of affect it. He's going to keep playing. And obviously on the defensive end, he's giving it his all day in and day out, no matter if the shots are going in or they're not. So it's kind of one big thing I took from him, along with many things, countless things off the court. But on the court, that was probably the biggest thing.
Now you approach with the Big Ten tournament here. One, you don't know who your first opponent's going to be, but then two, like just in general, you don't know. You can have a general idea and guess who's going to win, but it's March. Teams pull upsets off all the time. So how do you prepare practice-wise? Is this just about being the best Badgers and executing the best you can, or do you kind of at least have some scouting reports on the most likely teams you'll face?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. I mean, obviously, right now we're really focused on us right now, and we're going to try to right the ship right now with us defensively and offensively. And today in practice and tomorrow in practice, we'll probably dive a little bit more into both Northwestern, Minnesota, and UCLA to get ready for all those teams. But I think our main point of focus right now is just us and getting us back on track and getting us where we need to be. So yeah.
Where is that chip on the shoulder? I mean, again, I know that you guys, if you guys probably could get that Penn State game back, I'm sure you'd want to do it all over again. But a loss like that, a moment like that, as you guys head into this opportunity, what type of chip is on that shoulder for all these guys in the locker room right now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that one sucked, and for all the seniors, we felt horrible for them. But obviously we got a big chip on our shoulder. Teams might be looking at us saying like we're not capable of doing this, doing that, losing to all these sorts of teams, having this little skid. So, we got that. We know that that's what's going through their minds, and we're going to go through this tournament going one game at a time, playing our best, playing our hardest, and trying to prove everyone wrong.
Yeah, that does sound a little bit, and obviously the end goal for that Badger team was pretty spectacular, but the Badgers, when they went to the national championship game, had that make them believe sort of mentality, and you guys have kind of had that all year. Their knock was, hey, we went to Final Four once, and people don't think we can go back, and they went back and got farther. This year, you guys were picked to probably miss the Big Ten tournament, and here you are, and you're on pace to be a top seed 3 or 4 in the NCAA tournament. So how do you balance of getting that, I don't know if it's fire or that edge that you had early without overcorrecting?
Yeah, I mean, just staying level-headed. Obviously, like you said, people had picked us to finish in the bottom of the Big Ten, and we knew that. Coach had came up with the saying, chatter don't matter. So throughout the whole season, we weren't worried about what the outside noise was. We were focused on us, and we knew that we had the pieces to go far and be a very successful team. And obviously, we still have all those pieces. So we got that same mindset going into this tournament. It's a new season. We're going to kind of forget everything that happened in almost that back half of the regular season and go back to just having fun and being the team we know we can be and prove everyone wrong like we did throughout this whole season.
I know the game's changed a little bit, but at the end of the day, basketball is still basketball. And with your dad's history at Minnesota, making the run that they did, you ever talk to him about those moments, whether as a player or even just getting to talk about the memories in general? You ever just chit-chat about those things?
Yeah. He'll try to sit me down and show me some of his Final Four videos and the games that he's played in, so all that. But no, it's awesome to hear about the Final Four run and all the celebrations that they have that come with that. And it's something that I want to be a part of one day. And I don't think there's any reason I can't be in a Badger. So, no, it sounds awesome. And all the stories from the coaches to the fans to everything, it sounds like a blast. And I hope to be there one day for sure.
The last time we talked, you said that you were trying to dig into some movies. And what's the best recommendation you've gotten from your teammates?
Well, Jack Janicki's a big movie guy, so he's helped me with a lot. I watched Whiplash one time, and that's one of my favorite movies. He also showed me Interstellar, which I know is pretty mainstream, but that's also one of my favorites too. So those two are from him. But like I said, a lot of Christopher Nolan movies, that comes from Janicki. He's a big fan of his. So like Strangers, The Prestige, all those are all good for me.
I got a couple basketball ones for you. One's kind of goofy. It's called Sixth Man. It stars Marlon Wayans, and it's like an uplifting. It's like a Disney type movie. It's like Angels in the Outfield for basketball. So that one's really fun. Yeah. And then just to tie it together, another movie that features Marlon Wayans but doesn't star Marlon Wayans is Above the Rim, another basketball one. It's a couple other things going on, but the basketball scenes in Above the Rim are pretty legit. And you'll get a kick out of that character, Leon, and some of the... It's one of those movies where there's certain parts it's so bad it's good. But overall, there's some... You think you get fouled hard in the Big Ten against Michigan State. Watch this tournament in Above the Rim, and it is next level. So those are two that different... One will make you feel real good, and one will get you amped up to play. Okay,
I'm going to remember those. I'll get back to you on those.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm TV shows right now. I'm The Sopranos and Paradise at the moment. So a little White Lotus every Sunday when that comes out. Not too much free pub out here. We got to make sure we just name off a few. But if I get movies, I'll let you know, Nolan. But I asked Johnny Davis this question when they were on their way to the Big Ten tournament. Same thing I'm going to ask you. What's the music that you're bumping on the way as you guys head on over to the Big Ten tourney? What's your pregame hype?
Well, it's different for everyone. Like as a team, we got this big boombox that we'll be playing in the locker room and on the bus.
Yeah.
And that's filled with a bunch of like old school or new school rap and all sorts of stuff like that. But for me, I'll usually just throw in some AirPods, listen to some country music or something. Like I don't know why I wouldn't just listen to music I like. That kind of gets me going. So I'll know that I got like the soft country music going if I need it, and then I also got that rap to get me going if I need it. So it's the best of both worlds for me.
Old country or new country?
Both.
Okay.
I don't care. All country. Honestly, it doesn't matter to me. I just love country. So.
Well, now I got a couple quick follow-ups. One, I'm dying to know is there an amp up country song for you? Like, what's one that gets you going for a country song?
Well, for the amp up country songs, it'd probably have to be like this newer country that I don't label country, but people label
pop,
country. Pop country.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, honestly, like this newer Morgan Wallen stuff, maybe, or stuff like that. Some Luke Combs. I know Luke Combs is pretty country, so I like him. But I'd say those kinds of songs for sure for me.
And then the other part is it more Kendrick or is it more Drake in the locker room there?
It's probably more Kendrick, honestly. But there are some guys that love Drake, and they'll try to throw him on behind our backs and just kind of get that going.
Well, it's just from
No, Team K-Dot, as it should be. As it 100% should be Team K-Dot.
I'm just saying, like, time and place-wise, basketball, you're getting hyped to play a game. Like, for me, my mentality would be Kendrick. And so that's why it's like, I was just kind of curious. He might, again, like, it seems like Drake's more of a laid back, and I'm not an aficionado on him, but, like, Kendrick seems to be more of the 90s hip-hop that I grew up listening to, and which is more aggressive and can kind of get you amped up for a game.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's more of like the team thing. I'll have my own thing, and I'll just be listening to my country music in the corner and all that kind of stuff. So.
Gotcha.
Nolan, are you a karaoke star? I'm curious now, too. Oh, you're smiling. Yes, you are. I can tell. I can see from that smirk you are.
I got no problem going up there and singing a couple songs for some people. I'll say that.
What's your song of choice? What are you going up there? What are your top three that you got to go for?
Well, you got to play the audience. That's rule number one.
True.
You don't play the songs for your own enjoyment.
It's a showman.
It depends on where I'm at. Yeah, it depends where you're at, who you're around. But, I mean, usually for me, it's going to just be country music, maybe like some 90s hits. Just, I mean, I can go any direction. Whatever.
Is it Friends in Low Places? Because I feel like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fan favorite right there. That'll get brought out here and there. But there's a lot of, like, just maybe some Eagles too.
Okay.
I'm all over the board with it. So
if your voice gets deep enough, I'd go "Your Man" by Josh Turner. That's gonna be an underrated song that's gonna get the crowd going. So work on that, man.
Yeah, I need a couple years to get that voice.
Nolan, thanks so much for hopping on, and obviously good luck coming up this weekend, and we're hoping you guys continue to win and play yourself into a higher seed going into March, but we'll catch up next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me again. Good to talk to you.
That's Nolan Winter. This is the Jump Around 3.0. I'm Jim Rutledge. He's Pablo Iglesias.